Hello, Grats and Gits. Super happy to bring this, and because I love you, I figured I would consolidate all the Space Marine changes from yesterday's balance status slate so that you guys don't have to constantly flip back and forth to reference them. This will make it super easy for you. I know I did a stream where I went through all the changes, but it was an absolute ton. A bunch of other people did it as well. But it can be really annoying to try to parse out every single change from like an hour long or 2 hour long stream like a lot of us did. So this is just going to be a quick little, probably 8-minute video where I'm just going to rapid fire off all the changes for Space Marines in the recent balance status slate. There were a lot of them. So let's just jump into it real quick. Tons of changes. So all the documents you're going to need to reference all your changes are going to be the balance status slate, the MFM, the manual, whatever, the points changes. You have erratas, and you've got actually index changes as well. So just be aware that there might be a few stealth unit changes in certain individual indexes that I have missed, and that is simply because, well, I haven't dug through every single index because that's a shit ton of work. All right. So basically, here's the deal. Oath of Moment. This is the big change that everyone was really interested about. If you do not include any non-divergent codex units, you get +1 to wound against your Oath of Moment target. Now, real fast, there is a controversy going out there. Some people are saying, oh, you can run, say, oh, I don't know, Lion's Blade Task Force, but if you don't take any specific units that are only specific to Dark Angels, then you don't then you're good. You can still benefit from the +1 to wound because you didn't take any Dark Angel specific units that have the Dark Angel keyword. Now there is a designer note that actually mentions that it is assumed that every unit in the detachment has the Dark Angel keyword or the Blood Angel keyword or the Space Wolf keyword or the Black Templar keyword, whatever it is. But I think rules as written, it probably does work. But just remember, like if you're trying to pull this off, like don't be a dick. Either way, even if you do pull it off, it doesn't actually matter because you don't really get any benefit out of it anyway. Because the only reason to take other detachments is really just for their unique units anyway. So, regardless, it doesn't actually matter if you can or if you can't. That's just the way it is. Now, there's lots of interesting combinations with this new Oath of Moment change. You basically think about, well, you're going to take Gulliman, and he's going to give you 2 Oath targets now, especially with his big change, which we'll get into in a moment. You've got the new Psychic Detachment. That's got an insane Sturgeon Guard combo. You've got freaking Vindicators that get to reroll hit rolls and be at +1 to wound against Oath targets, meaning they're going to be hitting all of their shots, wounding on 2s, so basically wounding all of their 2s into basically everything. Basically, this makes Oath of Moment pretty spicy if you're playing a vanilla Marine detachment. Yeah, and by the way, I don't think Ultramarines are an auto take anymore. I think actually there are times where you might not run Ultramarines because Marnie's Calgar went up by a bunch of points. Uriel Ventress went up by a bunch of points. Gulliman went up by 60 points. Now, Gulliman's very, very good now because he also got another change, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I don't think it's just like you must run Ultramarines if you want to run Vanilla Marines. All right, let's talk about some of the other things. Unique characters will now add OC while not battle shocked to specific units. So if you include these guys in your army, it doesn't actually have to be like they're the warlord. It doesn't have to be anything like that. They don't have to lead these units. Just having them in your army. If you include this model in your army until the end of the battle, non-character models will get +1 OC while they're not battle shocked. And that's actually really important because it won't apply as a modifier per se, because if it's a just +1 OC, then you could be battle shocked and then still be OC1 because modifiers will happen after division. But since that's not the case, you only have the +1 OC when you're not battle shocked. So if you take Lysander with your army, then you're going to add +1 OC to all your Terminators. That's freaking awesome. Cave on Strike, +1 OC to all JPI. Doesn't matter at all. Kanzar, +1 OC to Stern Guard. Okay. Vulcan, +1 OC to Infernus Marines. Okay. And then the Khan, +1 OC to Outriders. Now, this one actually could potentially matter because Outriders just got a huge freaking rules change. That's like a really, really, really strong ability, actually. So let's talk about the detachment changes here. All right, so only one real detachment change. Fire Discipline, which is the super amazing enhancement for Gladius. That's the one that used to give you, like, sustained hits 1, and you get to crit on 5 while you're in the Devastator Doctrine. They changed it, and they really needed to because this enhancement was just so good, it almost didn't matter what it cost. You're still going to take it. So basically, they nerfed the ability of the stratagem, which is probably a good call because there's no way you're going to be effectively point it at the other version of it. So now you still get sustained hits 1, good enhancement, and now you reroll advances while in the Dev Doctrine, which basically doesn't matter. but it's still a reasonable enhancement. I think it's probably slightly overcosted now, but I think this was the correct choice. It didn't really matter what points costed they put at when you get crits on 5s, because that basically turns whatever unit you wanted on into an auto delete. This isn't really a detachment change, but Space Marines did get a new detachment with the Psychic detachment, which I made a review over yesterday, and I'm going to go through a list building video perhaps later today, where I'm going to talk about it, but there is some insane combos in that detachment. While I still don't think that detachment is very good, it does allow for the single most damaging combo in the entire game right now. So let's go into unit buffs. All right. Unit buffs, there are a bunch of these, by the way. Actually, I just need to include this one as well. Outriders. All right, so Captain Ingravis armor. He gets +1 damage to a heavy bolt rifle. So now your heavy bolt rifle with him is 2 shots, hits on 2, strength 5, AP 1, and damage 3. Pretty good. Then you've got your heavy intercessors. These guys got big changes. They are now +1 damage on bolt rifles, and they are going to be +1 ballistic skill to heavy bolters. So damage 2 bolt rifles means that these guys are actually very freaking interesting. That's not bad. Then we have the Infernus Marine, which is going to be +1 AP and +1 Battle Shock for its ability. So shooting phase, when you shoot it and they have to take Battle Shock, now it's at -1, which is really, really strong. And +1 AP on the Flamer means that it's actually good. So it's going to be the Flamer is the Pyroblaster, I forget, is called the Strength 5, and it's at AP 1. Now, interestingly enough, in the new detachment, you can use one of your Psychic Disciplines to make that AP2, which is kind of cool. You could also do that in Gladius, I believe. So Infernus Marines actually might have a little play now, which is pretty sick. Inceptors, they got a rules nerf. They also got a slight point reduction because of it, but I don't think the points reduction really makes up for it, but it's okay. It's something. Inceptors now, their 3-inch deep strike has been changed to a 6-inch deep strike, just like every other 3-inch deep strike mechanism in the entire freaking game. Then you have Predator Annihilators. You get to reroll damage rolls of, not reroll damage rolls of 1. It was changed from reroll damage rolls of 1 to reroll damage rolls on monsters and vehicles, which is much better. I still think still don't really think you'll take the Annihilators. I think you're still gonna definitely want the Predators, the Destructors, but it is definitely a buff. Then you have Reavers. Reavers got a bunch of changes. They now their Battle Shock in the fight phase that they cause when you're in engagement range of them is at -1, which is a world of difference. And they cause -1 to the OC of non-monster vehicle units when they are within 3 inches. So that is also very, very good. In addition to that, they get a little AP, which we'll talk about in a moment. Rubute Gulliman, he went up by 60 points, but he now gets to choose 2 Codex abilities every turn. Oh, and by the way, the Reavers went up by like 5 points to kind of compensate for that. 2 Codex abilities every single turn, freaking rocks. It means he's going to be able to give lots of free CP every turn, and he's going to be able to, and he's going to be able to give you like a double oath target at the same time. This is exceptionally strong. Then you have Stern Guard. Stern Guard got a big glow up. I think they went up by a couple points. Doesn't really matter. But now they're going to get to full wound rerolls against oath targets. And remember, they do have some dev wounds out there, which is spicy. And that's really what the big combo is, which I'll talk about in a later video. All combat knives get AP1. So if we read it right here, various blades and knives, I'll just make this a little bit bigger so you can read it. This is going to apply to combat knife, which is a captain in Phobos armor, a lieutenant in Reaver armor, a Reaver squad, and scout squads. Basically, they're all going to get AP1 on their knives, which is legit. Actually, it's pretty good. Now Blood Angel scouts actually probably can kill a freaking rhino, which is pretty funny. Then we have paired combat blades, which will also get the +1 AP treatment. So that's going to apply to your incursors, lieutenant in Phobos armor, lieutenant with combi weapon. So those guys will all get a little bit of AP. Your Rep X has now a transport of 7 models from 6. And then your Outriders no longer get auto advance, but instead they get, sorry, I just forgot to type that in. Now they're going to get +1 strength and +1 damage on the charge, which is a insane ability. And honestly, I'm going to be strongly considering Outriders in several lists now. Just as a hint, especially in the new Lion's Blade detachment where they can move through walls. Ooh, it's powerful. Okay. And that's basically every single change out there. There were a few points changes that I'm not really going to cover here, but it's pretty much easy. You just look them up. That's all very free. Heck, I can probably just talk about them real quick. I didn't write it down, but just so everyone has the changes that were made. Infernus Squad, they went up by 10 points for 5 models or 20 points per 10 models. That's pretty easy. Simply, they got AP now, and they have a much better Battle Shock ability. So they're a lot better, so they went up by some points. Heavy Intercessor models, actually, they went up a lot, so their damage output is way better with that sweet, sweet damage too. But they are up by 15 points to 110 for 5 models, or plus 30 points for 210 for 10 models. I think that's a little too expensive, to be honest with you, but they are a lot better. They're actual like anti-elite infantry now, which is pretty sick. Then you have Inceptors. They went down by 10 points for 3 models or 20 points per 6 models. So now they're 120 or 240 respectively, which maybe can help them see a little bit of play, but I think they're still freaking expensive, especially now that they no longer deep strike 3 inches and it's 6 inches. Then you got Marnius Calgar went up by 15 points. That guy is now 200 points. Honestly, he's still good, but it will probably make you make some decisions. I don't think there's any way you're running him and Guilliman in the same army anymore. Reaver squads went up by 5 points per 5 models or 10 points per 10 models. Totally reasonable. They get a lot better. I actually think we'll see Reavers now, which is pretty cool. Robote Guilliman went up by 60 points. Totally freaking reasonable because now you can use 2 of his abilities in the same freaking turn. That's real strong. Scouts went up by 5 points. Yeah, Scouts, we've seen this coming a long time. For 65 points, Scouts are ridiculous. So going up by 5 points per 5-man to a 70-point squad or by 10 points for a 10-man, which I don't think anyone's ever running a 10-man anyway. Then we have Stern Guard Veterans. They went up by 10 points per 5-man or 20 points per 10-man. Probably reasonable because they did get a lot better. And then lastly, Uriel Ventress goes up by 20 points up to 95. Also, probably required because Space Marines got a lot better. So those are all the points changes that may happen to Space Marines. So hope you guys liked this video, and we really just consolidated everything for you just to make it easier for you guys because I love you and I want you to, succeed and not have to tear your hair out every time you're looking for new changes. So with that, I'm going to take off, and I appreciate all of you. We'll be back later today with another video. Happy crumping.